Norwegian troops, dumbfounded, dazed by the swiftness of the German drive to the north, rally round loyal officers for defense of their homeland. Betrayed by key officials, victimized by false orders and Nazi sabotage, Norwegian soldiers are without access to stores of ammunition. But civilian volunteers join regulars, and by railway, bus, and motor car, they head for the country north of Oslo to form their defenses. The United States Minister to Norway, Mrs. Florence Harriman, is right at her post, staying with the Norwegian government of King Haakon. A military attaché, Captain Robert Losey, later was killed when struck by a flying fragment of a German bomb. Here he is supervising the retirement of Mrs. Harriman as she follows the government northward toward the Swedish border. Even as she turns northward under the protection guaranteed by the Stars and Stripes, the Nazis are advancing. Namsos, the victim of avenging Nazi sky raiders. This central port of Norway's North Sea coast was bombed as the Allied troops withdrew from the struggle. The Norwegians stay behind to fight the flames that spread because of low water pressure. Every available man is mobilized for the relief work, which is interrupted by methodical German air attacks. Everyone ducks into the woods for cover until the raid is over, huddling there, gripped by cold and paralyzing fear. Meanwhile, their homes go up in flames. Nowhere in the history of warfare is there a record of a town so completely destroyed. Although its roof is blasted away, the church still stands as the guardian of a smoldering town that is pockmarked and shattered by bombs. Perhaps a symbol of the one thing that war cannot destroy.
Shrouded in the mists of a northern dawn, ships of the Allied Expeditionary Force to Norway withdraw from the port of Namsos. All anti-aircraft gunners are on the alert, for the rising sun finds the ship still inside the narrow fjord. As the Royal Navy retires, gallant Norwegian land forces cover the retreat from a town completely destroyed by Nazi sky raiders. Continually on the watch, the warships sneak out of the harbor, acting as a defensive convoy for the troop ships that carry the French and English soldiers. Suddenly comes the roar of airplane engines. The anti-aircraft batteries swing round ready for action, and it's the Royal Navy against the Nazi Air Force. British reinforcements steam through the North Sea, headed for a rendezvous with the embattled convoy fleet. An airplane carrier brings a cargo of British air power to pit against the Nazis. And as they near the battleground, fighter planes go aloft to beat off the Germans, who make a desperate attempt to sink the carrier. Exhausted after the activity and excitement of battle, the troops safely relax on deck, while British planes keep a vigil in the skies. The Allies say not a single ship suffered a direct hit, while the Nazis claim sinking a battleship in the engagement that was part of the planes versus Navy controversy. While German prisoners taken from Namsos testify to Allied action in Norway, the British Navy still proudly boasts of ruling the waves. Swarms of German warplanes darken the skies over Western Europe. Roaring engines of destruction, with the finger of death at the machine gun and bomb release, break the stillness of a tense dawn over the Netherlands and Belgium. Holland, which had maintained a nervous alertness for days, depends upon its canals to impede the enemy's thrust. Fortified gun turrets mark the line of defense along the eastern frontier which borders neighboring Germany, and the dikes have been opened to flood the lowlands. Meanwhile, Adolf Hitler and his generals send wave upon wave of planes ahead. Hundreds of them carry parachute troops to lay the groundwork for the mechanized land forces. By sea, the Nazis send shock troops and speedy gunboats to strike at North Sea ports. Rallying her countrymen, Queen Wilhelmina calls upon a nation already mobilized for a long-expected attack. With the army ready and waiting for the 0 hour, the Dutch rob the Nazi thrust of its surprise element as they go into action. At the moment of the attack on Holland, Nazi raiders sweep over Belgium. Here again, it's a nation mobilized, with King Leopold, like his father before him, taking the field at the head of his troops. And Belgium makes its stand against the invaders. Great Britain, within hours of the invasion, sends air reinforcements to bolster the forces of its two new allies, Belgium and the Netherlands. Within 30 minutes of the appeal for help, French troops are on the way north to defend their neighbors. And units of the British Expeditionary Force swing out of their northern Maginot Line positions, headed toward their part in the general action.
Invaded Belgium is ablaze, and her flaming towns and cities mark the path of the Nazi war from the air that strikes both soldiers and civilians. The tragic story of the plight of the refugees is recorded by the camera. Only a few remain with the soldiers. Old folks too feeble to travel, too dazed to understand. The rest flood the highways leading south to France. Some sentimental tie to home, a pet dog or perhaps a family album goes with almost everyone. Pushcarts and trucks are piled high with their belongings. Where they will sleep, how they will eat, who will bring them help, hardly a one of them knows. Ambulances head back to the stricken towns to aid the wounded, and the refugees pass lines of troops going to take a stand against the invading Nazi army. Within hours, the bombardment of the big guns pulverized towns and cities that it took generations to build. In this city of death, at least one living soul remains. A blind man who turns his eyes upward while he murmurs, perhaps a prayer.
In London, the government faces a crisis, but the invasion fails to save the day for Prime Minister Chamberlain, who resigned after an attack led by white-maned David Lloyd George and the Labourites. Succeeding Chamberlain as Prime Minister is Winston Churchill.
I shall not attempt to prophesy whether the frenzy of a cornered maniac will drive Herr Hitler into the worst of all his crimes. But this I will say, without a doubt, that the fate of Holland and Belgium, like that of Poland, Czechoslovakia and Austria, will be decided by the victory of the British Empire and the French Republic. If we are conquered, all will be enslaved, and the United States will be left single-handed to guard the rights of men.